What's a company you'll never buy from again and why? Airbnb, took a trip, stayed in a condo on the beach. Condo has no physical key, only RFID. Go to the beach for 2 hours, come back to condo, all of our belongings are gone. Expensive appliances are still there, only bags gone. No sign of forced entry, called the police to make a report. The homeowner would not provide door logs. Called Airbnb to get money back. Haha, nope, no refunds. They did not even care if the homeowner had door logs and would not provide. Left a 1-star review that Airbnb removed promptly. I knew that was the most chicken hawking of greedy, probably conspiring with homeowners to steal from customers' company. Never again. Get a hotel, folks. Airbnb will rob you. I'd have left shrimp in the curtain rods. That's so messed up. Story 2. An obese passenger bought 2 tickets on United, aisle seat and middle seat. I was in the window seat of the same row. United overbooked the flight, surprise, surprise, and sat a full-grown man in her extra seat. We were all uncomfortably cramped on the 4-hour flight. But she paid for 2 seats. I don't understand. Like she voluntarily paid for the 2 seats. She wasn't forced to buy another one. I know this is nitpicky or whatever, but it feels wrong. Wrong enough that I would rather fly Spirit. Story 3. Tesla Solar, complete and total scam, had a roof leak. Tesla said they will come and fix it, but if it was not caused by them, then I had to pay a $600 fee. Sure, works for me, fair price. They came out, removed all of the panels, and then 3 months to investigate the leak, finding it was not their fault and they do not actually repair leaks, and that they're going to charge me $5,000 to put the panels back when the leak is repaired. So I found someone to repair the leak, and they revealed to me there were multiple leaks, all caused by Tesla's solar mounts being installed incorrectly, and most of them were cracked and broken by a poor install as well, meaning the panels may have fallen off. I moved control of the system over to a new company and will never be working with Tesla ever again. Speaking with 6 different roof companies, they said they have heard this story 1,000 times about Tesla Solar. They are constantly coming out for poor installs and scams like this. Speaking with solar contractors, some of them even guessed, let me guess, Tesla/Solar City? It is so widespread and well known in the industry. Story 4. Chili's. I left my credit card on the table and realized it as soon as I got on the ramp for the highway, which, mind you, was maybe a 2 to 3 minute drive. I phoned up the restaurant at that moment. I told them, please check the billfold for my card as I left it inside. They told me they did not have it. I told them to ask the server, which they did, and they told me I, in fact, did not leave it. Well, okay, sure. I drive home in traffic and get home like an hour and 30 minutes later. I logged into my bank to close the card, and I had $80 of Taco Bell on it. Mind you, this was in 2010, like you could order the entire menu about 15 times for that amount of money. And I had $120 worth of alcohol from a liquor store. So I Googled the store's name and got a number and rang them up. I told them what happened and asked if they had video cameras. Luckily for me, it was a mom and pop shop and they didn't mind sharing and showing me videos. They told me I could come by and they'd even make me a copy of the footage of the person using my card. So I went, and sure enough, it was my server, still in uniform. So I pulled the video, I put it on the USB drive home and burned it on a CD because in 2010, no way am I giving away a flash drive. And I bring it to Chili's and carrying it up and ask for the manager. I tell them my card was taken by my server and they swear up and down, no way, that's possible, etc. Then I reveal I have a video and they went quiet real quick and changed tones. But rather than be on my side, they get very defensive and refuse to even look at it. I left them the disc and went home because that was going to go nowhere. Why they would defend someone stealing is beyond me. Beyond being frustrated, I called corporate. They were much more concerned. I mailed them a copy of the CD and a few weeks later they got back to me. They asked me if I would testify if needed. I asked what happened to the employee, but they would not tell me what happened. All they did was apologize up and down what happened, said it was unacceptable, and that they were going to mail me something for my effort. A week later, I got 4 coupons for $50 each to that restaurant signed by the manager I met with to report my stolen card. Like, I want to show up my face again after this. I held the coupons for about 3 months or so and kind of forgot about them. I found them again after cleaning up a bit. I figured, well, why not use one at this point? It's been some time. What's the worst that could happen? So I go to college, get out, and go to a restaurant for dinner. I sit down and look around, and sure enough, the server is still working at the restaurant. They were not my server, but how the heck they were not fired for stealing my freaking credit card? These places fire people for taking a planned vacation. I don't freaking understand. I eat my food and go to pay. I give my server the coupon and they have to bring over the manager to take a look at it. They come over and I tell them, you know, I was given this because your boy over there stole my credit card. The manager shrugs at me and more or less says, I don't know what you're talking about. At this point, I am ready to lose it, like nothing has changed. The manager takes my coupon away and walks off. I sat and wait for them to come back for like 10 minutes as I think my meal was like $8.99 back then, and I used a $50 coupon for it. They never come back. I go and find them and ask, where is my difference from the bill? They explain the coupons don't work like a gift card. If you don't use the full amount, the remainder is forfeit. I say, well then I'll pay in cash and use it some other time, to which he refuses to give it back. I made a vow never to go back to that crap hole again, and it's been 15 years. I lost my 3 remaining coupons in Hurricane Sandy a few years later, so yeah, screw Chili's. Story 5. American Express. Talk about the stupidest people ever. My dad passed away in 2008. I was the executor of his estate and also the PR for the probate court. After creditors' rights were completed, I paid off his mortgage and then paid off his Amex card. I requested the account be closed as he is departed. They told me he had to sign a form. I said he was deceased. I could sign as PR. They said no. I escalated with several managers, and I'm being told that he has to sign a form. I provided his death certificate and probate docs. They still said he had to sign a form. I asked how, as he is gone. It got to the point where I said, fine, I'm just going to charge it up to the max allowable and never pay it because he is gone and his credit rating doesn't matter. It took me almost 3 months to get it closed. Story 6. Walmart. I was mugged in their parking lot in 2007. The man broke my jaw. He was caught, but because Walmart didn't turn over the video of the incident, he almost got away with it all. They don't care about their customers' safety at all. I have spent $0 there since 2007. He had been breaking into unlocked cars and taking what he could. I ran into my in-laws at the store. I was 19 at the time, and their 21-year-old son and I were living together. All I needed was about $20 in groceries and 1 prescription. They decided to hang out with me while I waited on the RX. They had some items for us in their car, and this man was inside it. When he busted out of the driver's side, my very ill father-in-law attempted to grab him from the passenger side. Even ill, he was a big man. The thief hit me. I attempted to chase him because I was a 19-year-old with more aggressive energy than brains. I stopped, but 2 other men started chasing him. He pulled a knife on them and made it back to his car. However, multiple 911 calls were made and he was stopped quickly. In court, he was almost let go because of Walmart's lack of footage, but he had a major record for harming women in another state. Me, being a woman and weighing only 100 pounds, didn't have this case. He spent 4 years in jail and had to write us apology letters. He paid for my missed days of work and my medical bills, $10 at a time. He had about $200 worth of stolen stuff, just under felony theft. I did not get a lawyer. I was 19, poor, in college, and working full-time. I figured he was already a loser and it's hard to get money from people like that. The lawyer I did speak with told me that going against Walmart is hard. They will tie up the courts for years until you can't afford a lawyer anymore. Story 7. Do hotels count? My husband and I both had our Christmas work party on the same night. He was in the Hilton Hotel. Mine was a bit into town, which was only like a 5 to 10 minute walk away. To make a night of it, we booked an overnight stay in the Hilton. It gets to around 12 a.m. and I just want to sleep at this point, so I said goodbye to everyone and headed back to our hotel room. When I enter the room, there are 2 men sitting in it drinking and one is doing substances. Both work at the same company as my husband, so I assumed he knew they were there. He knew both of them, I knew one of them, so I called him. He comes upstairs and is confused why they're there. They're asked to leave. Poor husband hadn't a clue they were there. I went to reception to speak to the manager. Turns out that one of the men, one I didn't know, basically gave my husband's name at the reception and said he lost key to our room after overhearing my husband saying we're staying there. The manager himself handed over a copy of our room key without asking for ID or anything. When I complained about it, we just got an apology and he walked off. I didn't sleep that night at all as I didn't feel safe, but we'd both been drinking so couldn't get home. Hadn't stayed in a Hilton since because I felt they clearly don't care about their customer safety. Story 8. Uber Eats and now all Uber services. I bulk ordered soup for pickup for my wife who was feeling sick. It came to $70 and said it would be ready in 20 minutes. Then I clicked order and the wait time jumped to 3 hours. It turns out they were super busy. That would have been totally fine, but I canceled it right away within 5 seconds. But they wouldn't refund it. I went through 3 chat channels and then 2 real people who I assumed would understand, and they said, no, we can't cancel or refund, even though their app got the wait time wrong. So I deleted my Uber and Uber Eats apps and now I use competitors. I know the "you just lost my business" argument sounds like a Karen thing to say, but I, like most millennials, spend an embarrassing amount on car services and food delivery, so this one $70 mistake will cost them tens of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Story 9. Ashley Furniture. I bought a stool, overpriced by a lot, Dollar General quality for designer prices. The finish is running, the padding is flat, the base was such lightweight trash I replaced it immediately with one from a stool that cost 1/3 as much. But that's not it. Getting the product from this company was a nightmare. They shipped it to a warehouse and told me when to pick it up. I drove an hour, they said they don't have it, gave me a return date. Glad I only bought one as a sample before committing to spending any more on this trash company. Story 10. Alpine Stars. As a motorcycle rider living in a rainy area, soggy gloves are a nightmare to dry, especially if you need to use them the next day. Splurged $150 for a pair of their quote-unquote waterproof gloves. only to find out that the gloves were water resistant at best. The waterproofing layer also became unstitched after 3 months of use, and I couldn't put them back on. And now the layer made drying the gloves even harder than regular gloves. Checked with Alpine Stars for a warranty and they gave me the runaround. At this point, I'd rather not wear gloves than have to wear these. Chuck them into the trash and never look back. Story 11. Jeep. They had a recall. I took it in. Pandemic caused replacement parts to be delayed. They said I was on the list and they'd call me. I checked in every couple of months for more than a year. That guy stopped working there, started again at another Jeep dealership when we moved. Turned out I was never on the list, and even though I had proof from my receipts that I had come in to start the process, I missed the window for filing for a replacement. I called, I wrote, I sent certified letters with copies showing where the receipt notes me bringing it in for the warranty item. They just don't care. Won't even respond to me. I've owned Jeeps for almost 30 years. Never again. Story 12. Home Frickin' Depot. I bought a whole set of household appliances about 5 years ago after moving into a new place. I'm on the top floor of a triplex, and the final flight of stairs does an awkward turn right before you reach into my door. I can't get any large furniture delivered because of this. The tenant before me had a 67-inch high fridge, but I decided to be safe and bought a smaller 64-inch one. I measured everything and made sure it could all get through. The delivery man refused to bring it up even after taking it out of the box because they were scared it would get scratched and that they would be blamed. I assured them it was fine, but they refused. They then had me call their boss, who was the most condescending piece of crap, who mansplained why it was impossible and told me it was my fault for not measuring everything beforehand. I then called Home Depot while the men were still present, explained the situation, and they reiterated that it was my fault. The men took the fridge back and I disputed it with Home Depot, who ended up reimbursing me $100 for a $900 fridge. I had to go buy a used one that was the same size, and the delivery men brought it up with zero problems, so I paid twice for a fridge. Crap company, never again. The oven also blew a fuse a month after I bought it because of course it did. Story 13. Pizza Hut. The last time I ordered from them, they passed my order off to DoorDash instead of using one of their own drivers. I do not use DoorDash because I find most of the drivers to be pretty trashy people who will mess with your food if you don't tip enough, or they'll just steal your food. Well, I got the notification that my food had been picked up, and when I opened the tracking, it showed the driver was going the opposite direction from where I live. A few minutes later, they marked it as undeliverable, claiming my address didn't exist. The same address that had been on my account for a year magically no longer existed. I called Pizza Hut to ask about it, and they basically said since they handed it off to DoorDash, I would need to contact them about any issues. The problem is, I couldn't contact them because I didn't order through them, so I called Pizza Hut again and spoke with the manager, who said they could make it again and send it. I asked if it would be DoorDash again, and they said yes, so I requested that they just cancel the order. They told me I'd get a cancellation notice shortly and should see the refund pending in my account the next day. Had I not called them, I would have just been out the money because DoorDash didn't notify them of the cancellation. 2 days later, there was still nothing pending from them, so I just had to do a chargeback on my card. Screw DoorDash and screw Pizza Hut. Story 14. Dell. In 2020, I ordered an Inspiron 5000, received it. It was having a touchpad malfunction. I think it just refused to work, but I don't remember. It turned out that it was because there was a case screw directly beneath the touchpad. Remove the screw and the laptop worked perfectly. So it's an engineering defect. I explained this to them who knows how many times, calls, emails, etc., at least 20 hours of my time and during a period where work permitted me no extra time. I eventually got my refund, but I've never in my life had to fight so hard for one. When it comes to work devices that cost hundreds or thousands of dollars, I'd rather spend a little more and go with a company that takes care of its customers. Shifted to a ThinkPad and have loved it. Might consider a MacBook next time since China bought Lenovo. Story 15. 8,000 Kicks. I saw their all-hemp shoes on Instagram, and after looking them up, I decided to grab a size 10 men's. They arrived, I tried to put them on, and I couldn't even get my foot into the shoe. I made sure they were the correct size, and sure enough, it said men's size 10 on the insole. I put them next to my men's size 10 Converse, and they were almost exactly 2 inches shorter. I contacted support after spending 30 minutes trying to figure out how to get a conversation started with 8,000 Kicks about getting the correct size and exchange, as I still wanted the shoes. Long story short, an AI chatbot told me to take the insoles out and see if they fit then. I finally was able to escalate my issue and got an actual email address. I sent a well-thought-out and brief email about the sizing issue, and I made it clear that I was wanting to send them back and have a larger size sent to me. The email address sent me back a verbatim email, just take out the insoles and wear them that way. I couldn't believe it. I did more research and found out that this company was being run, according to their website, About Us story, by 2 people and that the sizing issue was a big deal for all the consumers. I sent another email explaining that I wanted to talk to a real human or I would request a refund. Well, 7 days later and no response, my window to return or exchange was closing 15 days, so I sent another email, finally got a response from a real person. Real person, before we do an exchange, have you tried taking the insoles out and wearing them? Anyway, I sent them a picture of all my size 10 shoes lined out with their shoes to prove they were extremely small. I can't remember what the real human said back, but it wasn't an apology or I'll make this right. I demanded a full refund. They denied me until I paid for sending them back. Finally, I got an email several days later confirming that they received the shoes. The next day, my checking account received the $100. I couldn't believe the BS time and work I went through with that company. They should have sent me a free pair at that point. Story 16. I hope this isn't too off topic, but it's Air France for me. After one terrible experience, I've decided never to fly with them again. I was traveling in economy with my cat in the cabin. She was in the proper carrier, I had all the required paperwork, I paid the extra fees, and the carrier was placed underneath the seat in front of me as requested. However, midway through the flight, a safety steward threatened me when I tried to check on my cat by unzipping the carrier just a little to make sure she was breathing okay. The situation escalated after landing as I was told I'd breached their policy and they even suggested involving the police. The reasoning was that opening the zipper could trigger allergies in other passengers, but this didn't make sense for two reasons. My cat is a Bengal, a breed known not to cause allergic reactions. I know this because I'm allergic myself, but I guess I don't expect that person to know this. Simply opening the zipper briefly wouldn't affect anyone more than simply walking through the cabin with the carrier in hand, dropping fur everywhere anyway. They advertise their company as being pet-friendly and accepting animals, but trust me, it takes one individual in the wrong state of mind to make the situation a complete nightmare. Air France is awful for many other things on top of this, but this was the final strike for me. And if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 17. Firestone. The first car I purchased from a dealership was a lightly used 2-year-old Mustang II with Firestone tires. As a kid still in high school, it was really more car than I could afford. Within 6 months, 3 of the 4 tires began to split and shed chunks off their treads, with small chunks falling off as I drove. As a kid with a part-time after-school job, I was just keeping up with my car and insurance payments. I couldn't afford a new set of tires. It got to the point where the car was no longer safe to drive because so much of the tread had peeled off. Then came the recall notice that Firestone was being required by the government to replace their defective tires. I took my car to a Firestone dealer with my defective Firestone 500 tires. The dealer checked the tires and their serial numbers and informed me that only my micro spare and one of my tires would be partially covered by the recall. With the credit for the recall, it was still going to cost me $750 to replace my tires. If I'd had $750, I would have replaced them already. I felt that the dealer was taking advantage of me because I was a kid and desperate for a replacement set of tires. I left that place, went to another tire store, and had them put 4 used Michelin tires on the car for $100. I probably put another 40,000 miles on that set of used tires without ever having any kind of problem with them. I vowed never to buy a Firestone product ever again. Almost 50 years later, I never have. Story 18. U-Haul. I can't say I won't buy from them again because they screwed up so badly there was nothing to buy. I tried to schedule a hitch installation 2 states away where I was going to pick up a trailer. They made a Monday appointment. While I'm still on the phone, another U-Haul number is calling me. I finished the appointment, call back the second number, and it is the location that I scheduled for Monday. They are telling me they don't do installations on Monday and in fact are booked that week and can't do it. Fine, I call a U-Haul an hour away to see if I can get it done today, a Friday, right before closing. They say yes, so I hurry and drive an hour away. I show up on time, a nice guy is out fixing trailer lights. I tell him I'm here for the hitch installation and he's confused. There is no hitch installer there and no hitch. He was really nice and we talked about how things work at U-Haul. Both appointments I made were at some national call center. When your local U-Haul doesn't answer, the call center does and they will do anything to secure an appointment. They lied so many times in the space of a few hours and wasted 2 hours of me driving to a location for nothing. Never ever use U-Haul. Story 19. Ford. My wife bought a Fiesta right after they came out. It turned out to be a lemon, but the Ford dealership wouldn't honor it. During one of its numerous recalls, 13 plus, they called us to pick it up because it was quote-unquote ready. We went in, we signed the papers and got the key, but we had to find the car in the lot ourselves. We looked through the window and saw the glove box lying on the seat, the kick panels for the center console on the passenger floorboard, and the back seat was not secured. Under the back seat was a gas tank access hole. They had left it open after pumping out the tank. I went back in and they said that because I had signed the paperwork, it was now my problem. Allegedly, there was no management on site to speak with me. They eventually called the cops on me when I dropped the keys on the desk and refused to accept the car in that condition. They accused me of assault, claiming I threw the keys at the receptionist and hit her with them. I had video of me dropping them next to her keyboard as I calmly said the vehicle is not safe to drive and needs to be returned to a similar state as when it was dropped off. So nothing came of that other than being escorted off the property. We later found out that they didn't even put gas back in the tank, so if I had tried to start it, I would have gotten down the street and then passed away. When it was eventually fixed, they never replaced the 3/4 of a tank that was there when it was dropped off. Eventually, management got involved and tried to brush it under the rug with minimal offers, but they refused to admit wrongdoing. It took getting Ford Canada involved, who ordered them to make it right by taking the vehicle back, specifically calling it a lemon in the letters. We ended up in a very nice SUV with the Fiesta's value subtracted, but they made it as difficult as possible. The included navigation was so out of date that most of the highways in the area didn't exist, and when we tried to get up-to-date maps, they offered them to us for $800. It was a freaking SD card you plugged into the car. The SUV didn't age well either. It developed rust quickly, and about 5 years in, it started having engine and exhaust issues that would have cost more than we initially paid for the car. A couple of years later, a different Ford dealership tried to sell me a used car. They let me think I had the one I liked, then called me back a week later saying they couldn't sell it to me because of quote-unquote financing issues, and that I needed to bring it back, but they could sell me one for almost double the cost. They took back the used vehicle, tried to charge me for mileage and wear and tear, and then ran 3 hard credit checks on me after I refused to deal with them anymore. I was the subject of pestering phone calls and guilt trips for probably 6 months after that. I had to reach out to a government agency in Ford Canada again to get the credit issues resolved. Screw Ford. Story 20. I have a couple of brands and companies that I boycott. Here's the top 2. Walmart. I never really liked these stores because they're well known for union busting around here. They even famously shut down a store over it about 2 decades ago, so it's nothing new. I would still shop there occasionally for convenience, that is, until I ended up dating one of their store managers. I kid you not, she spent a lot of time getting trained and spotting at-risk employees and diffusing any union talk there might be going on. I tried discussing the morality of her training a couple of times, but she was high on the pro-corporate Kool-Aid. We broke up for unrelated reasons. I've stopped shopping there since. Amazon. That one hurt because of my introverted nature. Having stuff shipped to me instead of going shopping for it was awesome. They decided to go full union busting and completely pull out of my home province the instant a single warehouse voted to unionize, putting hundreds of workers out of a job overnight. They'll not get a penny out of me even if that means I need to go to the store to buy things again. Story 21. HP. 5 years ago, I bought an HP Envy 17-inch laptop. After the warranty period ended, I encountered the following issues. Screen burn marks on the sides, essentially discoloration on either side of the screen. I paid quite a bit for a new screen. The disk drive stopped opening. One day, it eventually decided to open, and then the cover plate for it fell off. The built-in microphone only sometimes works. I had to buy a headset for COVID meetings because no one could hear me. Random blue screens of death eventually became a daily occurrence. It turns out that model used an 8GB RAM module and a 4GB RAM module to produce 12GB of RAM. The 4GB part stopped working, so I had it removed, and now it has 8GB of RAM. I think I have 4 or 5 keys on the keyboard that don't work anymore. Not only that, but then your HP printer throws a fit when you don't subscribe to their instant ink service or when you don't buy a $65 color cartridge when all you want to do is print a black and white page. Oh, and it'll really hate you if you buy a non-genuine HP print cartridge despite the cartridge being perfectly fine to use, so yeah, screw HP. Story 22. Hobby Lobby. There's a lot of companies I'd rather not shop at, Walmart, but I'm willing to be a little flexible when circumstances call for it, but what Hobby Lobby did with the ACA birth control rule is a bridge too far. They went to court to get courts to agree that it's okay to refuse to cover medical care if the people in charge personally deem it icky. And I'm honestly pleasantly surprised we haven't seen a slippery slope effect from that affecting more than just birth control. I definitely was concerned at the time that a precedent had been set that could snowball. I've admittedly had some moments of temptation lately with the Joanne closures and not a lot of alternatives, but this is my one line in the sand and it would just feel wrong to cross it. Story 23. Starbucks. I haven't given them a cent since 1999. I went to college in a small town in upstate New York. There was a great local coffee shop there with mismatched couches, antique tables, poetry nights, people playing chess, and a piano in the corner. It was the perfect small town college coffee shop. The owner became a good friend. He was a recovering alcoholic who grew up in the Bronx and worked construction at a high school, but he achieved his dream of getting out and opening this little shop with his wife. When Starbucks moved into town, he started selling coasters that were an approximation of the Starbucks logo, but instead of Starbucks, they said, "Screw off." Starbucks, with their team of corporate lawyers, sued him for copyright infringement and won in court. He was ordered to pay them $20,000, which was more than he had in savings. He had to shut down his shop. He fell off the wagon and was eventually arrested for public urination outside a Starbucks. Things went downhill from there, and he and his wife got divorced. I decided I would never give Starbucks a single dollar. A couple of years later, I was having a drink with him in the city, rehashing the whole tragedy, and he turned to me and said, "You know what the worst thing is? They never even cashed the freaking check." Now, some might view this as an act of charity on Starbucks' part, but really it was the ultimate screw you. All they wanted to do was eliminate the local competition. They didn't care if they ruined a man's life in the process, not a single cent. Story 24, Lyft. Booked a Lyft from the airport to my friend's house for around $78. Driver took a different route to what we both saw was the map route, which added another $75 to the final charge. He drove with a second phone on his lap, using it periodically. I used the "I don't feel safe" feature to report this, but we were on a freeway, so unless the driver stopped, there wasn't much I could do. Plus, all my bags were in the trunk. On a less important note, but probably also relevant, the plate matched, but the car didn't. Driver explained that he has a better car, but gave some excuse why he was using this one as I got in, and since nothing else had gone wrong yet, I wasn't overly concerned. When I complained to Lyft with photos and screenshots, they said there was nothing they could do about the extra charges, but here's a $15 voucher toward another ride. I said, "No thanks. If they can't do anything about unsafe and unscrupulous drivers, I don't want to get in another car with them. Haven't used them since." Story 25, Papa John's. I grew up down the street from a local candy store that had been my grandmother's and mom's first jobs and was a staple part of town. They had good shakes and burgers too. We had homemade chocolate from this place every Easter and Christmas. I've never found better. I delivered them the paper and they gave me candy as a tip. Classic small-town establishment. When I went to college the first time I came home, I found it had closed and was replaced by Papa John's. Did the place just go under, and did Papa John's just rent open space? No way. Papa John had to be up to some shady crap. Story 26. Samsung. Every single time I've dealt with their customer service, it has been a nightmare. I tried to warranty a pair of active 3D glasses. They tried to tell me they were out of warranty, produced the receipt showing I was well within. They tried to say the warranty was 90 days. I showed them the page in the manual that says 1 year. They said I could only get them replaced if I sent them back in the original packaging, but I am a box hoarder, so I had it. They made me send them pictures of everything multiple times, just hoop after hoop after hoop. Finally, they caved and agreed they were under warranty, but they can't actually replace those glasses, so I asked for a refund. They said they don't do that. I sent them a picture from the manual's warranty section that shows, yes, you freaking do. 3 freaking months after originally contacting them, I get a check in the mail for the purchase price of the glasses. I really just wanted a new set of glasses, so screw Samsung. Story 27. Apple. Crap products that are damn near impossible to repair even for their technicians at the store. I saw the scam all the way back when I had an iPad Nano, the one with no screen, and one of the buttons didn't work. They didn't fix a dang thing. They just swapped my data over to a new one. I haven't used an iPhone in at least 10 years. Every time I'm forced to use a MacBook for anything, it feels like playing with a toy for toddlers. Apple products are for people who can't be trusted with real tech that you can actually customize and modify to suit your needs. It's for people who never ask for more or better and just accept whatever they're given for whatever price is asked, even if it is measurably worse than other comparable products in the market. No wonder Apple bros and AI bros overlap so hard. Story 28. Sleep Number beds ordered and paid for a $10,000 bed. And I know that may seem outrageous to some people, but hear me out. Fun fact, if you're over 6'1", you void the warranty on most beds. Well, my husband is 6'5", 300 pounds, and after having to buy new mattresses every 3 or 4 years, we easily spent more than $10,000. So we went with and invested in a Sleep Number because he doesn't void the warranty on those. So we go 15 miles from our house to a Sleep Number store, order and pay for the bed. Delivery takes a month. Okay, it's not ideal, but we were fine with that. The day comes for delivery, get a notification that it's on its way, and 30 minutes away, the truck breaks down. They use literal rent-a-trucks. Okay, rent another truck and bring me the frickin' bed I paid for. Nope, now we have to wait another month? Then the salesperson I spoke to was some ignorant witch who got angry with me because I wanted to know where the bed was and she hung up on me. Love the bed, but their customer service sucks and I'd rather sleep on rocks than ever give them another penny. Story 29. Verizon Wireless crooks. They send me a letter saying they're adding me to a family plan unless I say so. Call them up and say no. Stay on my current plan. I get another letter. I call them back again. 2 months later, my bill goes up like $300. Like, what the heck? I call them. They said it's prorated for a family plan. I said no 2 times. Now they moved me from my old plan and were told they have no plan like mine. I said, you messed up. I want my OG plan back. This went back and forth for like a month, and then I was told we were able to restore your plan back. Another month goes by. Next bill, I get a charge for $13 for incoming text. Like, what the heck? Called again. They waived it and assumed it was prorated. I said, fine. Each month I have had to call because of this, still getting charged for incoming text. Story 30. Grubhub. I ordered food and the guy called me to get the delivery code and then left the food on my porch, except he didn't actually leave it on my porch. I called him and he came back and realized he had left it at my neighbor's house, but it was already gone. I figured this would be fine and that I could just call support to get my money back. Nope. Because I had confirmed the code, they wouldn't give me a refund, credit my account, or reorder my food, and I was willing to take any of those 3 options. After getting on the phone with the manager, he would only refund a partial amount because they had given the driver the right address, so they felt they had it messed up. I argued that the driver did mess up. He even came back to my house and admitted to me that he brought it to the wrong house. Support said that was impossible and claimed their employees don't make mistakes. I was so mad at them for stealing my money. Story 31. Kia. I lost my Mercedes to a flood and needed an economical replacement that was reliable with good cargo space. A Soul fit the bill. Kelley Blue Book and Google made it seem like they were pretty decent. I searched for recalls and very little came up. Very little came up because Hyundai and Kia buried a multi-million-dollar engine recall and rebranded the class action settlement as a product improvement campaign. I didn't discover that until I had a check engine light at 148,000 miles for a downstream O2 sensor. My fuel economy went down. I replaced the sensor and spark plugs at the recommendation of a shop, not a dealership. I drove it and it was fine for a while, then the fuel economy dipped again. No codes, then one code, then another. The shop said it was likely my catalytic converter. I started saving to replace it. I took my girlfriend out on a date one night and the car went out. Simply just went out. No engine, no power, no steering, no brakes at freeway speed. And we're lucky we didn't get obliterated by a semi-truck that nearly jackknifed as it avoided us. I couldn't even power my hazard lights. I drove straight around a curve and luckily was slowed down by an embankment. I got a tow and powered up the accessories, then came the dreaded code I'd never heard of. The Your Engine is Brick code, P1326. I found info on the class action settlements. The code only fell under warranty if the KSDS, the knock sensor detection system, had been updated, which the original owner did in 2019. The dealership saw the code and told me there was nothing they could do. I bought the car with 148,000 miles on it. I repair and run my cars for years, and it went out at 152,000, exactly 2,000 miles out of the extended warranty for the claim. I paid cash for the car, and my investment was completely gone in 6 months. I almost passed away because of a faulty $8 part that broke due to heat and wear. A plastic connector holding the crankshaft together. Plastic. On the crank. Kia offered me $350 for the car with an interior and exterior in perfect condition and new tires, but only if I traded it in for a new model. I told them to get screwed and sold it to a junkyard for $1,400. Story 32. UPS. I have never been misled, lied to, and ripped off so hard by a company in my life. About 15 years ago, I bought a Schwinn Stingray lemon peeler, more commonly called a crate, which I'd wanted ever since seeing them in those old ads in the backs of comics. I needed it shipped from the US to Canada, and after having it professionally packed by a bike shop, the arrangements were made through UPS. Then the games begin. Once it finally hit town, attempts to deliver were made. As I was an apartment super, I set up my buzz code to go directly to my work cell so I could buzz the driver in, but all I got was notice after notice left in the lobby vestibule. The phone never rang. Calling their 1-800 number was a farcical exercise in futility. Between call center language barriers and corporate scripts, no one could tell me where my parcel was, but through an extremely long email chain, I tracked it down to their depot. So, after hiring a pickup truck, I went down expecting to pick up my bike. Instead, I was met with a customs bill and the news that my box was locked up for the night. I paid the unexpected bill, paid my truck driver, and then went back the next day. The box I received was barely holding together after being dragged through snow and sitting on a wet truck floor. There was a giant hole in the side with a parts bag ready to fall out. Worst of all, the minty paint was chipped down to the primer in multiple places. I tried to use the insurance I had paid extra for, but after another lengthy email chain, I was informed they don't consider damage to an item's finish, the paint, to be damage, rendering my claim null. I'm glossing over several details because even today, this made me angry so much that I never used them for anything since and have refused to buy goods if they are the only carrier. And if any of these stories got to you too, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. I'll catch you in that video.